Hey there. Hello, how do you do? My name is Harry Wessel. Thanks for coming. It's the 80s, darling. It's January 1986. It's the last couple of days of January 1986, and there's a great big audition over at the Attic Theater for a new show at the Attic Theater, and I'm in the middle of the run of Greater Tuna. We're coming down to a close, and we're on a high. It's a crashing success, and so there's another audition coming up. It's for a serious drama, and I'm on this high from Greater Tuna, so I want to take this serious drama. It's called Monday After the Miracle by William Gibson, which is a sequel to The Miracle Worker by William Gibson, the same guy who wrote The Miracle Worker 20 some years later wrote a sequel to it. Yes. So I got a hold of that script and I read it. And here's the thing. I got an idea of how to play that character. Yes. However, I'm about 15 years too young for it. Right. I'm in my mid-20s. And the character's in his 30s and is something like that. And I read a little bit young. I read it young for my 20s, so I'm not exactly right for the role, but I don't care. I'm riding this high from Greater Tuna. I said, we're invincible. Me and Neil we were like rock stars in Detroit for a couple of weeks. It was for the run of that show. I feel invincible. We can do anything. So, and now I'm in Actors Equity. Now I'm in the union, AEA. This is fantastic news. This now I can. This means when I get back to New York, I can go to any audition for any show, union or otherwise. It's fantastic. So I come to the Attic Theater, and Mary, my friend from Greenfield Village, my friend from University of Detroit, is directing the show, and I'm like, all right. She knows I can act. We both know, you and I both know that auditioning might not be my strongest suit. Yes, it might not be. But Mary knows I can act. We've worked together for years. Right. So, here's the thing. She could give me the benefit of the doubt if I botched the audition. However, so much weight lies on the audition. So much weight lies on the actor's audition. You know what I mean? A botched audition or a weak audition may indicate that the actor does not have an affinity for this particular role. Not every actor can portray absolutely every role. Even good actors are wrong for certain roles. Somebody has to lose out. All right. So, when I went to the audition, I gained access to the audition with my Actors Equity card, my equity card. A huge moment in any actor's career. Yes, because now I am legitimate, official, and endorsed by the union. Yes. So I walk into the theater. Wherein I am playing, one of the two roles in the lead, of a show that's running, a successful show that's running. And I walk into that theater, and suddenly it's not a place where I work. Suddenly it's a place where I want to get work. Suddenly it's a place where I am attempting to procure and obtain work. Yes, it felt entirely different when I walked in there. Even though I had my equity schmequity card, yes. I walk in there and I walk down the aisle, and I'm walking into the theater, and there's the set on stage, my home set. That for the last month or so and for the next week or so, it's me and Neil's home set. I come in here every weekend, and I'm on this set. It's mine. But now I'm walking in this room, and I've got this audition, and I feel like I've never been in that room before in my life. And there's Mary, and she's sitting in the second row, and she suddenly looks like a stranger. And there's Lavinia, the producer. You remember Lavinia, the producer of the Attic Theater, and she's here, and I definitely want to make a good showing for her. But suddenly I'm overwhelmed with nerves. I look down at my feet. I can't tell if they are yards away or inches away from my face. My shoes way down there, or right up there. I couldn't tell. I had this sort of weird vertigo situation going on. And I step up on the stage, and then they give me my scene partner for the audition. One of the great Detroit, one of the Detroit great actors, Jane Howdyshell. Yes. She went on to be a Emmy Award winner, Tony Award winner later on. Yes. We don't know that right yet. We know that she's just a brilliant hometown actor. Yes. So all my nerves went away. Her aura was so huge and so powerful that when she came on stage, I suddenly felt, I don't feel out of place anymore. And then I looked at her and I realized I'm 15 years too young for this role. She and I did not. It looked like I was trying to, because the scene that we read was it's a scene between sweethearts, and we look more like someone and his aunt. I know. Anyhow, the audition came and went. I didn't botch it. I did a pretty good reading. I'm not right for it. I look too young. So now it's closing weekend of Greater Tuna. And I don't know how the audition went. Sometimes sometimes the director doesn't even know what they're gonna go with. But nobody tells you anything, and then you come in for your closing weekend of Greater Tuna. And what happens? And then one of those days, Mary comes in and she says, "Listen, I didn't want to tell you over the phone. I wanted to tell you in person." I'm like, that doesn't bode particularly well. She says, "Yeah. You gave a really nice reading," she says, "but no, it's clear you're too young for the role." And I'm going with Glenn Pruitt. Glenn Pruitt, one of the titans of Detroit theater. So it's going to be Jane Howdyshell and Glenn Allen Pruitt. Wow, what a lineup, Anyhow, so she was so kind and so conciliatory in when she broke the news to me that I wasn't going to be in the show and that I had to because I didn't get this gig in Detroit. You know what that means, don't you? That means I've got to go back to New York City, right? So I didn't even feel bad. She was so sweet and so kind to me in breaking the news to me, and now I've got my actors union card. I'm a little bit excited to go back to New York City. Now, hear me out here. I am not, because I am somewhat excited to go back and audition for legitimate theater now. I am also in no rush to go back to New York City. I'm not. All right. So, like it or not, Greater Tune is over. So, like it or not, it's the end of that. And it was a crashing success. And we had a great run. And I wound up working on out at the Village, building George Washington Slept Here. But even that came to a close because George Washington Slept Here opened the same weekend that Greater Tuna closed. Right. So that's over at the Village, and that's up and running. And that was a lovely set. And always a pleasure working with Gregos. But now, Mary told me that I'm not working here. So, yes, I've got to get a ticket back home to crack of thunder, lightning, New York, sound of wind, rain, and loneliness. So I got to go back to New York City because, as Keith said, I brought absolutely everything that I own to New York City, including my spare tombstone, and it's all waiting for me there in New York. So right. So now everything's closed, and now we're winding down in Detroit, and I wanted to go up to WJR one more time, hang around with Cardinal Pat McElroy, the Cardinal, Night Flight 760. Yes, So Cabbage Boy and I went up there one night, right? And we split a a a tab a hit of Purple Microdot. We split it in two. So hey, we're professionals at this. We're gonna have a nice moderate trip. It's not gonna be anything too crazy or anything like that. Right. So we go down there and the Cardinal says, all right, you guys, have at it. Pick out some music. You know the drill. Nothing too funny, nothing too weird, nothing too obscure. And so the other night, excuse me, the other night when I was up at the Leland house and Reeves and I got pretty drunk and Reeves got all blotto and he turned into a wax figure of himself. Yes. Well, when he was in the other room, I turned on the radio and Night Flight 760 was on the radio and they played and he played Cardinal played Errol Garner. And so I wanted to hear that same piece of Errol Garner. And so I went looking through the stacks to find this Errol Garner, and I found it. Errol Garner is the composer of the tune called Misty. Yes. So I go out into the Cardinals recording studio, and I got a stack of records, but there was one in particular on top, and I held it up and I said, "Play Misty for me." Look, I know. Here, excuse me, I gotta get a look. It's not that funny, a joke or anything like that, but it is kind of cool. It's a pretty cool song. It's a pretty cool request to make. And how often do all of these things line up at the same time? It's an actual record. I'm holding an actual record of an actual song. I'm asking an actual DJ to actually play it over the actual radio. Just not often you can get all those conditions to line up and be true. I know. So now it's the night of the 14th into the 15th of February of 1986. Right. This is one of my last nights in Detroit. We're on the radio, and it was the 14th, and now it's the 15th, and the Cardinal and the Cabbage Boy and I are, during the songs that are playing, we're having little conversations. There's always, Cardinal always has his omnipresent coffee. Yes, yes, yes. And we're saying, hey, if the 15th day of March is the Ides of March, and here it is the 15th day of February. Is this the Ides of February? And it's 1986. We don't have the Encyclopedia Britannica nor the internet. We don't have any way to find out right handy. So the Cardinal says, I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask the radio, I'm going to ask the listening audience. So after the next song, he goes on. There he says, dear listeners, the panel and I have been discussing this little conundrum here, and we don't have the answer with the resources that we have at hand. If, he said, the Ides of March is the 15th of March, then is today, the 15th of February, the Ides of February? Give us a call if you know the answer. And he gave the WJR phone number, and then he played Misty for me. I know, pretty cool. So eventually the calls started coming in. People said, here's the thing. We got several calls, and people were looking up their Funkin' Wagnalls and their Britannicas and all that stuff. A couple of collegiate types, and one guy who sounded like a ghost called in, and a couple of drunk people called in. And as it turns out, March, May, June, and October, the 15th is the Ides. All the other months, the Ides is the 13th. So the Ides of February is the 13th of February. And no, tonight, the 15th of February, is not the Ides of February. There, we got the answer from the listening audience who was out there listening to the great voice of the Great Lakes, WJR. Wait a minute. March, May, July, and October. I know. So that's pretty cool. But anyhow, we did get a call from a drunk person. This woman who was just ranting and raving at Cardinal, and he was like, "I can't understand what you're saying. I can't hear what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying." And he passed the phone off to Cabbage Boy because he had to go back on the air, and we had to be quiet, as was the deal over there. Anyhow, then he put up his, then the next song came on. And Cabbage Boy and I are sharing the phone. We're listening to the phone, and it's just some poor unintelligible drunk person, just ranting and raving and ranting and raving. And Cabbage Boy said, "I can't understand what you're saying." And she said, "You do not understand. Perhaps you do not wish to understand. If you do not hear what I am saying, perhaps you do not wish to hear. If you do not wish to hear, then you should plug up your ears." And this was what this woman kept on saying, ranting and raving. "If you do not hear, perhaps you do not wish to hear," and over and over and over again. We tried to calm her down, and she kept on ranting and raving, and we eventually found out her name was Shirley, and she was drinking 7 and 7. "Oh yeah, I like a 7 and 7. She said, "I gotta have another sip." And so she did. And so we're like, "Shirley," and we calmed her down. We got her to calm down. She said, "But if you," she got riled up again. And said, if she got a little, "Excuse me, I didn't understand." "If you do not understand, you do not wish to understand." So we listened to her, we calmed her down, and eventually, after an hour or so of her ranting and raving at Cabbage and at me, we got her to say goodnight. And now it's the middle of the night, and your mommy and your daddy are sleeping, as Frank Zappa said, right? So, okay. We hung around, we played some more music. Stormy weather. Little Barry Manilow, even, for crying out loud, yes. And then comes the end of the workday. It's 5 a.m, and time to land this plane. Night flight's destination that night, I think, was Ketchikan, Alaska. Every night flight had a different destination, as you know, as you remember. And Ketchikan, Alaska was tonight's. So we're sailing back in from Ketchikan, Alaska. And he ends up the show. He closes it down, and in comes the next shift, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's in February, so it's pitch dark still, and we decide, well, might as well go get some breakfast. Might as well go get some eggs. So this is my last day in Michigan before I fly back to New York City. And I've got very mixed emotions about that. I'll have to tell you about all that next time. So, here we are. I look forward to seeing you. And, you haven't been doing it, but click on like and subscribe and share and all that stuff. It's very important. And we'll see you next time.